so let's see if I can do this in 3 minutes. So I started playing drums when I was around 8 years old. And I didn't really start taking drum lessons until I was 10 at the Long Island Drum Center in New York. It was the 80s, so I was an 80s rocker. I loved Def Leppard, and I loved Bon Jovi and Motley Crue and all those bands that were kind of blowing up on MTV. Tico Torres was like my favorite drummer when I first started. I started learning all those Bon Jovi tunes, and that's kind of what my gateway into like playing rock. Eventually, I started getting into Queensryche. Once that Eyes of a Stranger video was on MTV, I saw Scott Rockenfield's Kit with the Chains, and I was hooked. That was it. So I started just listening to Queensryche and playing along to all of their stuff, and that kind of got me into like the odd meter stuff and, you know, into some interesting drum parts that were a little more advanced than what I was listening to with the 80s rock stuff. That turned me on to Rush eventually. And of course, I got into Neil Peart, and that had that whole phase where I was obsessed with Rush and learning all their stuff. Eventually, in high school, I started moving more to fusion. I started studying with different teachers, and my teacher at the time turned me on to Chick Corea. That brought me into the world of guys like Dave Weckl and Steve Gadd and Vinnie Colaiuta and Dennis Chambers. So I started listening to all the stuff that those guys were playing on, and that just opened my world to a new level. In college, I decided to go to SUNY Purchase. I auditioned at a bunch of schools, but Purchase made the most sense. The challenge with Purchase was it was a new jazz department, and they were only taking 3 freshmen. So the audition was very, very competitive. They even told me, like, listen, you probably don't have a shot because we're not taking any drummers because we have plenty of drummers. But for whatever reason, God was on my shoulder, and I had a miracle audition. These guys thought I was like a prodigy. I came off as a lot higher level than I actually was. The challenge with that is once I got to school, they realized real quick that I wasn't the prodigy that they thought I was, and it put me in a very difficult position. So it was like white knuckle panic for like the first 2 years in school, just trying to figure out what I was doing wrong, break my playing down, and build myself back up to the next professional level, which I did. In doing that, it helped me really carve out this system of teaching that eventually became the drummersalmanac.com, and now my new Study the Drums app, which is like a brain dump of all those foundation things that I did to really get myself up past some of those hurdles that were stopping me. So after college, I hit that more professional level and just started being a pro drummer. So these days, my focus is more on drum education, helping drummers reach that next level, creating drum content on social media, and cultivating that community at my Study the Drums app. If you want to join that community, you could get it through my... And when you get there, I encourage you to take my Drum Foundation Challenge, because that really kind of encompasses all of those things that I thought I had together but didn't when I auditioned for college. So that's my story in 3 minutes. I hope you found it interesting. Now, if you want to get better at drums, stop scrolling through videos and go download my app.